Hello, Medicare Advantage risk adjustment operators, innovators, and learners. Welcome to another monthly live Q&A of the Hughes Academy Risk Adjustment Made Easy, the Medicare Advantage Kind learning series. If you are first time joining us, we want to say thank you for joining us and welcome here. If you have been here with us over the months, we also want to say thank you so much for joining us over the last couple months as we've been learning. This month, we have been going through the Medicare Advantage 00X report or the XXX report. I'm changing them from XXX. I learned something very interesting today, but is the Medicare Advantage 00X report that we have been going over the entire month. And as you know here, we do a series of lessons over the course of the month. And the last week of the month, we take some time to reflect on what we've studied because we always want to reinforce and also take some time to look at some Q&As that we have on our hand as we studied through the resources that we shared over the last month. So we are very excited that you are joining us from wherever you are. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. And if you're joining us, you can also let us know where you're joining us from. If you will be rewatching it, also we want to say welcome and we thank you for the excitement. Please pass it on to your other friends, your other colleagues who may be inspired by this or who may learn from this. We always appreciate the sharing, the liking, the commenting, the reaching out, because it helps us get to a bigger audience so that we are all masters of the Medicare Advantage risk adjustment process. So thank you so much for joining us again. We'll go through some things, but we want to really also bring up the Medicare Advantage Risk Adjustment Success GPT. Thank you so much if you've already subscribed or been on the wait list to get this on. It is coming, and we just want to make you masters of Medicare Advantage Risk Adjustment and save you time. We want to save you time. We want things to be efficient for you so that you have knowledge to be game changers in your risk adjustment space. So you can go to www.thehillsacademy.com/RASGPT, and you'll be able to sign be on the waiting list. I'm gonna quickly pull it out here. There are also videos that have been shared on LinkedIn regarding all the various use cases that you can leverage this for. Say bye-bye to wasted time, have your answers at your fingertips, navigate some complexities with confidence. And we are very excited. So you get in here, you put your email address, and you put if there are any specific topics of interest that you are interested in as we prioritize and train models and things, you want to please let us know, because we are very excited for this. So please get on this, and by next month, April, we will start sending some emails out to start deploying and testing this out. So we're excited for this, and thank you so much for joining us on that. Afterwards, I am gonna go through some of the things that we've covered over the past month. The Medicare Advantage 00X report, 001, 002, 004, and the corresponding cheat sheet that you will see. And I'm making some changes to the resources here because I had XXX, but I'm changing it to 00X. So you might probably see some of these discrepancies, but they are all the same. So you can download your copy from the website, and I will go here again. If you go to resources and you go down to the resources and you get your free copy of Basic 6, this, let me quickly refresh, click on it and refresh it. Right, it should open this resource for you, and I'm going to use this resource to quickly explain just a summary of what we've been covering over the past month. So if you're first time joining us this time, I would say please, you can leverage this to just get a quick hit on what we've been covering over the past month. But you can also please go on the videos. They are all 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes. They are not very long to get a deeper understanding on this. But we will do a quick summary here, and then we'll dig into the questions that we've received over the past we've received on these on questions that have come in. So the 001, we started with that one, which is the encounter data duplicates report, and it identifies duplicate errors. We looked at the various duplicate errors that the 001 talks about, and you can use that to see which duplicated the header line level, and then you can quickly resubmit and clean that up. So if you didn't get any duplicate, you will not get that report. So good job. If you don't receive any 001 reports, that means there wasn't any duplicate. You did a great job. So fantastic. If you get the MAO-0002 report, instead, is the encounter data processing status report. And last month, we went through some of the dispositions that were covered: accepted, accepted without any edits, rejected, and rejected with accepted without edits, accepted with edits. We talked about informational edits, and then rejected. So 002 report gives you that disposition, and you can use your 002 to understand that. And also it has the preliminary risk adjustment flags on the MAO-0002 report, and you use that to get the root causes of all your submission errors. If you didn't have any error, then you get your 002 saying everything is accepted. Awesome. If you get some errors, you use your 002 report to help you mitigate them and resolve them and resubmit them as applicable. 004 is the encounter data diagnosis eligible for risk adjustment report, and 004 informs Medicare Advantage organizations and other entity of their risk adjustment eligibility of the diagnosis that was submitted on your encounter data records, chart review records, and accepted and filtered, and that gets to you on that. And this gives a summary of when it's returned, and that 004 comes in monthly, 001, 002 within 5 days, but the 004 to you also want to recognize that it is for the prior month. And these are some of the very key differences you want to know. There are so many other things, but at least this get you started. We want to keep it simple on the Heels Academy. So this is what we've been covering over the past month. And based on that, we will be looking at some questions that have come in, and we'll be also summarizing many of these together. So we discussed on all of them how data come in from the health plan, and data coming in from the health plan to CMS. That we have been touching more on the EDPS, and also with the risk adjustment system process with the 004. But ultimately, just think of it simply that from a provider to a health plan, and health plan to CMS, as I drew earlier on. And then you get these reports from CMS back to the health plan, giving you information on some of the dispositions or the duplicates or the risk adjustment eligibility status of your reports. So that is what we've been covered, and that's where the reports come in. And we'll go deeper into the questions. So what's the purpose? The first question we have here, and depending on the time we have here about 20 more minutes. What is the purpose of the MAO-002 report in the risk adjustment process? Can you explain more? One thing that I also encourage is, if you have any questions as I go through and dig deeper into these, please don't hesitate to put it in the chat of wherever you are, either on YouTube or on LinkedIn, and then we can discuss the questions through right now, or follow up appropriately if we are unable to get to that question. So you can leverage the chat features on any of the platforms that you're using to also help ask any questions, so that we can dig deeper into it. So let's go into question number one. What is the purpose of the MAO-002 report in the risk adjustment process? So 002 report, as we discussed in the video, is for disposition. So either accepted or rejected, or accepted with edits or accepted without any edits, and then it moves on. So to get to the risk adjustment process, even to move on, the encounter data record or chart review record needs to be accepted. So the 002 in risk adjustment process, not necessarily in the risk adjustment calculation things, but at least it's a precursor to it. So the 002 is telling you that if a record was accepted or rejected. If it's rejected, it doesn't even make it here. If it was accepted, then it gets on to the next level. So you want to understand the 002 report so that you know which one is accepted, rejected. Therefore, it will then move on to the next level of processing for risk adjustment. So if it's rejected, it even doesn't move on in this manner. So that is question one. That is the importance of it because it will become an input. The 002 data and things will become an input to the next level of risk adjustment processing, especially next level for MAO-0004, then move on to the um, risk adjustment process. So that is the first question. That's the purpose of the 002. Not necessarily goes into the risk adjustment process, but it is used to help with the data that were accepted to move on to the next level. I hope this makes sense. All right. The next question here is how can the MAO-002 report assist in tracking and accounting for risk adjustment eligible diagnoses? So the MAO-002 telling you accepted if a record was accepted or rejected. So using the ones that are accepted, then you can track because the MAO-002 doesn't report back and tell you all the diagnoses that are on the records that were accepted. But at least as a submitter, you know that the records you submitted and you know the diagnoses that were on them. And therefore, as you get your MAO-002 that tells you that a record is accepted, now you know the diagnoses that were on that record. And then you can use that to help track until you get your 004 and you do a reconciliation, all these things. But at least you can have a heads up with using the 002 if you know you should know the filtering logic and put that into operation and doing some things. But at least you as a submitter, someone who submitted the record, you know the record if it's accepted. And then the 002 is now having the preliminary risk adjustment status on it. So if it's preliminary allowed, then it's accepted. Then you can leverage those diagnoses that you submitted because you submitted them. So what data or what diagnoses were on them. But at least using that MAO-002 to track, you can leverage that in that manner. So I hope that makes sense. MAO-002, you have preliminary risk adjustment eligible status on it. You know what diagnoses were submitted with that record. You can do some work on understanding the filtering process and filtering logic to determine some of these things before you get your MAO-004. You can do that. And I hope this makes sense. Otherwise, you can easily reach out and discuss more. Question number 3 that we have here. What are the differences between the risk adjustment filtering status on the 004 and 002 and the 004 report? Ideally, both of them are using the same filtering logic. But the 002, as you can tell from CMS, says is preliminary. So preliminary means it's what you're getting beforehand, before you get your 004. And in the CMS memo that actually announced the 002 preliminary fields, you can check out that memo. Says that the 004 is the ultimate source of truth for this. So, but the 002 is to give you some information so that you use it for your calculation and other things. So ultimately there are sometimes there are some timing things, there are some hick picks that there are some hick picks reconciliation things that I don't want to go way deeper to confuse people. But there may be some times that you might find some timing issue things, but otherwise should be fairly the same in terms of either is allowed or disallowed. But then you need the 004 to more of diagnosis accounting and doing all the good stuff that you need to do many of your reconciliation. Question number 4. How can the MAO-0004 report be used as a source of the assigned status of risk adjustment? Um, The MAO-004 has a field for allowed or disallowed after it's filtered. And if it is allowed, it passed this filtering logic. If it's disallowed, it will give you some reason of why is it disallowed. Is it HICPICS? Is it typo bill? Is it not applicable? Or is it the deadline? So be used as a source of assigned for status. So depending on if it's allowed, and then you account for the diagnosis, then you are using that as the source for the assigned risk adjustment status. The allowed help you to get that, and then you have to put all records that are allowed together, do some more processing on that end. But definitely the 004, even knowing that it's allowed, is a great step in identifying the risk adjustment of diagnoses that are on the record for your risk adjustment processing, data processing, and revenue planning and projection and everything else that you have in. I hope that helps. The next question number 5, is how can the MAO-002 report be used to prevent resubmissions of previously submitted records and to correct and resubmit rejected records? That's pretty much what it's used for. Recognizing if it's rejected or accepted. Was it accepted with edit? Or maybe I should have drawn it this way. Is it accepted with edit or accepted without edit? Let me do this without edit. So if it's rejected, then definitely you're using it to do resubmissions and correct records to help prevent knowing the prevalence of maybe an error on your MAO-002 and going to the CSSC operations, looking at the resources to look at what are the resolution strategies for the specific prevalent error, and finding, based on the resolution strategy, developing a game plan for that to be able to prevent those errors, because might be more expensive to submit and get rejected. It takes more time. It's not just expensive in money, but expensive in time too. So knowing your prevalence of error, knowing the resolution strategies that is given by CMS, and developing a game plan about that, and cross-checking submissions with those with the game plan, so that when you submit, it makes its way to CMS than being rejected again. So that is how you can use the 002 report to prevent resubmissions of previously submitted records. If it's duplicate, or for example, example, if you know that a record or a line got accepted, then you didn't get 001 report on it. You got 002, it says everything is fine. With that, you can use that so that to make sure you do not submit another record that looks like that, or based on the duplication logic. That'll be a game plan to prevent resubmission to get a duplicate error, or you use that as a screening criteria to make sure that your records that you're submitting are getting in correctly, to prevent the errors that um, you're trying to prevent. So the 002 is a good resource to understand and to help get your data in very well correctly in that way. Question number 6. How can the 002 and 004 reports be used to improve the accuracy of submissions? Good question. 002, as I've been talking about, is talking about mostly the dispositions. Um, it's given accepted, rejected dispositions. 004, together with preliminary risk adjustment. 004 is giving you risk adjustment eligibility status. So data accuracy in submission, if you submitted for a beneficiary and you get your 002 that it was accepted, 004 that it got in, it passed risk adjustment filtering logic, and you recognize that, that shouldn't have gone in, you know, the accuracy, the right thing to do is clean up the data, right? Either using replacements. There are other videos that I have talked about ways to use replacements and voids. So you can really reach out to those check out those videos to help knowing how to submit a replacement. And then that replacement, you see that on the MAO for report with all the adds and deletes of the diagnoses and pulling these together in that way. So you can use the 002 and 004 to make sure data is accurate, and not only accuracy of submissions, but even much more accuracy of payment. It saves you headache, saves you audit risk, saves you from audit risk, and all the headache that comes along with being audited, um, or even going through these risk adjustment data validation processes. So you don't want to be on the OIG report, or your company being on the OIG report list. But leveraging these resources, these reports, can help improve data accuracy, not only data accuracy, but also payment accuracy as well. So you want to leverage the 004 and 002 and work with them together to make sure that you get there. How can the 002, MAO-002, and MAO-004 reports be reconciled to provide information about which encounter data have diagnoses that are eligible for risk adjustment? Okay, so this is reconciling 02 and 04. A big field that can be used is the ICN, because that is pretty much the tracking number. So 002 will have an ICN, 004 will have an ICN. You can link them together, leverage them together, and use that to really help in reconciliation. You got your 002, it didn't show up on the 004. These are some part of reconciliation. It may be even your own team reconciliation process error. It may not necessarily that didn't make it CMS. Maybe your team members processes can cause errors. These errors can happen almost throughout this process. But a key field here using the ICN, because it's the unique tracking number. That's how I refer to it. Is a unique ID that one can use to help tie them together, reconcile them together, and then be able to make sure that you have the encounter data have diagnoses that are eligible for risk adjustment, prevent audit risk, payment risk, and all these other risks that we see. Question number 8. How can the MAO-002 report be used to generate analytic report identifying the most frequently occurring edits and overall rejection rates? Yeah, because 002 has the dispositions. So knowing how much you submitted with your your IT team or your analytic team, you can use that to do some descriptive statistics on report on specific rejection errors that you can use with the edits and see overall rejection rates, right? You submit 100 uh, records, and if all 100 of them passes, then from the MAO2 you will get all of them being accepted, and therefore your rejection rate is zero, right? And depending on 10 get rejected, rejection rate 10%. So not only looking at it from an overall perspective, but even much more going digging deeper into the specific errors and calculating those specific error rates that you may be interested in, double checking and preventing accordingly. So that's how you can use the 002 report, and it's a fantastic report to do that. Question number 8. How can the MAO-002 report be used to generate an analytical report? I think I doubled this, but I've went through. Sorry about that. I have gone through it. Question number 9. How can the MAO you oh did I didn't click. Okay. The last question I have here is, how can we use the 004 and 002 to improve the accuracy of encounter data submissions to ensure all eligible diagnosis? This is covered also on the prior slide, and you can double check on that in using the ICN to link them together and put them together for analytic purpose. So these are some of the questions that came in, and questions that we have from this month. And we are very thankful. We thank you for joining us in 30 minutes for us to go through this and to help improve on your learning on these. If you have any question, don't hesitate to reach out to us at info@the Academy, and I'm gonna pull it out here, info@the and info@the We greatly appreciate you for joining us today. I think, yeah, for joining us today as we dive deeper into this. And you can definitely also reach out if you have any questions or any comments. Download the free resources online. And also don't hesitate to join our emailing list. If you go to the HillsAcademy.com website, you can join our emailing list, and you can get our signature gift. So go to the Hills Academy website, join our emailing list so that you don't miss anything from us, because there are exciting things that are coming in the pike. And also don't forget to get on the Risk Adjustment Success GPT list as we work to roll that out in the next month. So thank you so much, and we appreciate you for joining us, and catch you next week on a new series of learning. Enjoy and have a good rest of your week.